Hey guys, this is Joe McMurray. I'm back with Fret Buzz. I've been talking about jazz improvisation, specifically using bebop scales. I've already done 2 lessons on these, and we've looked in the first lesson at using the scales starting off the roots of those scales. So over the 2 chord, the Dm7 in this case, and the 5 chord, the G dominant 7, we've been using the G dominant bebop scale. So in lesson 2, we learned how to start off the 3rd of that scale, which would be the G, A, B. So, instead of having to start off the root, we can start off the 3rd. And off the C major bebop scale, instead of starting off the root every time C, how to start off the 3rd, so we could go, or the opposite, when you ascend. So this time we're going to look at starting off the 5th of each of these scales. So you might be wondering, when is this ever going to end? It seems like a lot of exercises, and how is it actually useful in sitting down and jamming, improvising over a real jazz tune? So if you think about popular melodies, especially like children's songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, the melodies of these songs move, they don't jump around a lot. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, it jumps up a 5th, root, root, 5th, then it just moves by 1 scale note at a time. A, G, F, E, E, D, D, C. So it's not jumping around like a Pat Metheny. It's not jumping around too much. It's just got 1 jump and then it moves in scale. It just moves with scalar movements. So in jazz, we're trying to create melodic lines in much the same way. So the more you know these scales and you're able to start off different chord tones, the more you can create a natural flowing line. So say from the first lesson, if we descend from the root of the G dominant bebop scale, let's pivot to go to the root of the C major bebop scale. We have to do this awkward jump. Here's without the stop and with the loop. But I can actually do that and make it sound a lot more, I can make it flow a lot better if I descend, ascend, and I can just land on this G, and the G is the 5th of the C major bebop scale. C, D, E, F, G. So I could hit it and descend the C major bebop scale. So I've actually created a much nicer melody, and it's actually easier to play in the long run. So let's look at these bebop scales again. The G dominant bebop scale, remember it's root 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, natural 7, root. So starting from the 5th, that's G, A, B, C, D. So to descend that scale, it's D, C, B, A, G, F sharp, F natural, E, D. Or ascending, D, E, F, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. The C major bebop scale, remember any major bebop scale is root 2, 3, 4, 5, flat 6, natural 6th, 7th, and you're back at the root. So starting off the 5th is C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you're going to descend that scale, it'd be G, F, E, D, C, B, A flat, G, or ascending, G, A flat, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So let's look at some lines, starting off the 5th of each of the bebop scales. So over the D minor 7, we're going to start off the D, The G dominant 7, same thing. With the C major 7, we're going to start off the 5th, the G. Okay, so it looks like this. It's actually a little awkward to play, but we'll fix that in a little bit. Over the loop, it goes like this. Okay, now we can do the same thing, ascending each of those scales. So, and we could go to this G here. Here it is over the loop. So now let's add a pivot. So we're going to ascend the G dominant bebop scale from the 5th, from the D, over the D minor 7. Then over the G dominant 7 chord, we're going to descend. And we can, this time let's jump all the way up here to this. No, I'm saying we shouldn't jump a lot, but this as an exercise. We'll jump up to this G here. So it'll look like this. We'll ascend. Wait. Over the loop. Pivot, descend. Again. Pivot. So we could also do the same line essentially with the pivot. Instead of jumping all the way up to this G, let's hit this G. That's a lot closer. But look what happens. Now we're going to get down low. We've got to slide down. So descending from that G, that's the G, F, E, D, C, B, A flat, that's the flat 6, G here on the 5th. So here it is with the loop. Again. Okay. Let's move on, and this time, instead of sticking strictly to 5ths, we're going to do that same G dominant bebop scale off the 5th with the pivot, but then when we come back down, we're not going to jump to the 5th of the C major bebop scale. So we're going to ascend the G dominant bebop scale from the 5th, pivot. Okay, so I want to get to this E here, because that's the 3rd of the C major bebop scale. So I can't hit it and then hit it again. I mean, you could, but... So I'm going to actually enclose it with a chromatic enclosure. So I'm going to, when I'm descending that G dominant bebop scale, D, C, B, A, G, F sharp, F, E flat, E. Now I can ascend the C major bebop scale from there. F, G, A flat, A, B, C, D, E. Here's that in slow motion. Descending, enclose. Okay, ending on the E, the 3rd. So let's do that with the loop. Enclose. Again. Enclose. Okay, so we could also, let's see. Yeah, we could descend the G dominant bebop scale and then pivot and ascend it again, and look where that puts us. Pivot and ascend from the D. So now, if I land on the C up to the D, so that's on 4, and then I'm right there on the C. I can descend on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So I'm descending 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. It's kind of boring landing on the C, so you can land on the E or the G. So let's do that with the loop. 2, ready, go. And close. Just landing on the root. Boring. And close. Third, I like that. I landed on the G that time. So you can pick what note you want to land on and create a pretty line. So let's try, when we get to that C, let's enclose it and we'll ascend. And we're using, this time, we're going from the B to the D and then hitting the C there. We could try a chromatic enclosure, going from the B to the D flat or the C sharp back to the C. So actually, you could do that same line we were just doing. I don't like that as much though. So let's stick with it. Using the B and the D to enclose the C. This time we're going to do that enclosure and we're going to ascend. So here we go. 2, ready, go. Pivot. Enclose. It's landing on the C. Pivot. Landing on the E. Pivot. Landing on the 5th there, the G. So there are all kinds of cool things you can do with that. Now, we can also we can maybe, when we get up here, so we're going to descend and pivot. So we could go ahead and hit that C, and we could jump up, kind of roll that finger down, and we're on the E there, the 3rd of the C major bebop scale, and we could descend from there. So here it is, descend from the D, the 5th of the G dominant bebop scale, over the 2 chord, pivot and descend that scale. Okay, with the loop, pivot, let's do that again. Okay. So another thing you can do, you can jump up and you can play these lines up an octave. I know we've been trying to stay in one place, but these do sound really good up here too. So this is a D on the high E string, the 10th fret. So we could descend, descend again. Then we could, well, we could hit this G here and descend from the 5th of the C major bebop scale. G, F, E, D, C, B, A flat, G. Where's that with the loop? You could also ascend each scale. Oops. So from the D here, that's the 7th fret of the G string. So we could ascend. We could jump all the way down to this G here. So here's that with the loop. What else did we do? We could also start introducing that pivot, and then so we can ascend the G major and the G dominant bebop scale from the 5th, from the D, then pivot and descend. Then we could just go to the G G here and ascend the C major bebop scale from the 5th, that G. Here's with the loop. Pivot. We could also enclose the E, the 3rd of the C major bebop scale. So we ascend 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 on the F. Just like we did down low, we could jump to the E flat, E, D, C, B, A flat, G, F, E. It's a nice line. So here we go. Okay, we could also enclose that E and ascend from there. So we ascend the G dominant bebop scale from the D, pivot and ascend from the D, enclose the E. We gotta stretch a little bit and slide up, but it's a nice sounding line. Here it is with the loop. Next time we'll look at arpeggios and how to really use those to travel around the fretboard. And when you start adding the arpeggios, you open a lot of doors. You can get yourself out of these holes you can get in when you only play bebop scales. So we'll talk about that next time. Have a great one.